Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending Rose City Women in Aviation and the Columbia Cascades 99s. A little bit louder.
Louder.
All right. I'm not so loud all the time. Saying welcome, everyone, to the Columbia Cascade 99s and Rose City Women in Aviation's second annual scholarship seminar. I am Aria Noel Clements, president of the Rose City branch of Women in Aviation. Running audio tonight, audiovisual, is Cody Clements. We will be recording everything, so if the Wi-Fi cuts out or anything, this will be posted tomorrow. So that's more for any viewers who are at home, and we've got a fair number of you watching, actually. Thank you for that. Down for tonight's agenda. First, we're going to have Teresa Bubb coming up using the Amelia Earhart Scholarship, which is a 99 scholarship she'll give on this one. Transfers to just about any scholarship out there, within reason, but it's a lot of good information. This is a fantastic one. We're going to have a little bit of a break after that, just a very short break. And then we'll be bringing up Gina Calvario to go over organization, and then Erin Unger to go over resumes, something a lot of us have trouble with. Then we'll have another little break. After that break, we're going to have a Q&A. If you can please hold any questions that you have until that Q&A, that would be fantastic. That's often one of our best segments, actually. It's wonderful. Once the Q&As have wrapped, we'll move on to essays. So those of you who've brought essays, I believe there's 4 of you? 3? All right, if you can spread out at different tables, we'll have one of our ladies join you. So if Teresa Bubb is ready, she is the scholarship chair for the Northwest section of the 99s. And whenever she's ready to come up, she will start going over this application with you.
Hi. So happy to see all these fresh young faces here. Really excited that you guys came tonight. This is our second seminar about aviation scholarships. I hope that we'll have a lot of information for you and be able to answer any of your questions about aviation scholarships. I want to thank Gina and Noel for putting this together again for our second year in a row. They did a lot of work on this. And Cody is our technology magician. Thank you so much. He does a great job. All right, so I am the scholarship chairman for the Northwest section of the 99s. That is the states of Alaska, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. And the Amelia Earhart scholarship kind of gets funneled to the section level as part of the process, but we're going to focus on that scholarship specifically, like Noel said, because it's very large, and most of the questions and requirements for that scholarship will be applicable to most any aviation scholarship you fill out. So, and then a QA at the end. Let me get these going. Okay, so just about the Amelia Earhart Scholarship in general. It was established in 1940 to help deserving 99s advance their training and education. The first scholarship given out in 1941 was for an award of $125. Today, the fund exceeds $5 million, and they award up to $20,000 for scholarship applications. The 99 Scholarship Fund has given out over $1 million in scholarship awards to over 850 pilots. And it isn't uncommon for people to apply more, to reapply and get 2 awards through the Amelia Earhart Memorial Scholarship Fund. So, one thing that's common with scholarships in general is the overseeing body that is sponsoring the scholarship is thinking of these awards as an investment in their members, an investment in the future of their organization. So the Amelia Earhart Memorial Scholarship isn't any different. It's an investment in a 99. Just as a EAA scholarship would be an investment in an EAA membership, or Kamaswa Shugal scholarship. They're investing that this member will go on to exceed in their goals, to represent them in a positive way. So one thing you might want to do when you start your scholarship searching is look into the organization that's sponsoring the scholarship and see what their mission statement is. And this can help guide maybe where you want some of the information you want to put in your essay. For example, the 99s is, oh boy, I need to get closer here. The 99s is an international organization of women pilots that promotes advancement of aviation through education, scholarships, mutual support, while having unique history and sharing the passion for flight. I was lucky enough in 2013 to get an Amelia Earhart scholarship for a course of backcountry flying in Idaho. It made me a much, much safer pilot. It really boosted my confidence. I think scholarships are highly underrated and maybe not sought out for as much as they should be. So I'm a big proponent, or a big backer for scholarships. Okay. So going over application here. So before you actually even get to an application for a scholarship, you want to check into the organization that's awarding it. You want to familiarize yourself with their mission statement. You immediately, or as soon as possible, get involved in an organization. Volunteerism is pretty much universally encouraged throughout any of the scholarship awards or applications that you're going to apply for. Find the scholarship applications that they have, read through the instructions, Super important. One of the biggest gaps that we see in scholarship applications are simply that the instructions weren't followed. Does the scholarship fit your goal? A lot of aviation scholarships are geared towards your private pilot's license. So know how that works with your schedule for your training. Is this scholarship going to be open when you're kind of at the end of your private pilot's training? Should you maybe start looking at scholarships for instrument ratings or other ones? So kind of investigate that. Eligibility for scholarships can vary. For the Amelia Earhart Memorial Scholarship, you have to be a member of the 99s for a year. And they also require that you have 5 hours of flying time within the 6 months that the application is due. First Wings scholarships, I think it's 3 months membership with the 99s. But usually some of the organizations might have some requirements around length of, or time of membership. As you're training and thinking about these applications or these scholarships that might be available, also start thinking about who could be a writer for your letter of recommendation. Letters of recommendation are pretty much required for every scholarship application that you'll have. So think about your flight instructor, think about your ground instructor, think about some of your past teachers or mentors, think about some of your coworkers, think about some of your past employers, and just kind of start thinking about who would be the best one to write a letter of recommendation for you. For the 99s, reach out to your chapter chairman. For Portland, Vancouver, that's Meredith right back there. Or whoever you're going to be probably maybe sending that application to in the first stage, let them know early that you're even just thinking about this, because they will be able to guide you to what the requirements are and how you can immediately begin to start volunteering and getting involved in the organization, which will help with your whole package. Okay. So the path that an application follows is going to vary a little bit depending on the organization involved. For the Amelia Earhart Scholarship and for the 99s, the first stage is that the member would complete an application package and send it to their chapter scholarship chairman. Again, that would be Meredith, due January 1st of the application year. Each chapter has a quota. They can submit one application per 25 members. And I think you submitted 4 last year. So they have about 100 members, so they can send 4 to the section level, which is the next step. After they've decided which 4 applicants they're going to forward on, the chapter scholarship chairman writes a letter of recommendation. Those packages are due to the section level, which is me, by mid-January. At that point, we have a different quota. We can advance 1 scholarship for every 100 members. So we do a little bit of sorting through that. We develop a committee. If we have more applications than we could forward, we decide which ones are the best, and those go on to the international level, which are sent in and due by January 30th. With these 2-stage reviews and quota levels, we have the ability to help polish the application. We can't change what you're applying for, or can't change the whole application, but we do a lot of reviewing and trying to make sure that your application that gets pushed forward is the best application possible. I think that's probably a little bit unique to the 99s. I think most scholarships, they just go straight to judging. But for the 99s, we get to get more eyes on it, make sure that everything's readable, make sure all your attachments are in the package, and get those ready to go on to the international. The Amelia Earhart Scholarship is very competitive. It is an international scholarship, and they do give out high awards. So you want to have the best possible package sent forward. So at the international level, the trustees receive these wonderful applications from all over the world. They kind of arrange them from the best down to the not as best. Then those scholarships go to the judges for judging. Then they start from the top, and we'll start awarding them and when they get to the amount that is budgeted for that year, then they stop awarding the scholarships. So the amount of money and the number of scholarships tend to vary a little bit throughout the year, but that's part of the process for the 99s. Judges use certain tools to rate and to essentially grade and compare scholarships. Sometimes they'll have a checklist or a rubric or some other grading tool. Just know that a lot of these items on their grading tools and rubrics essentially come from the instructions. So your ability to follow those instructions, put the information that they request where it needs to be, and be consistent is very important. Excuse me, some of the key grading points for application reviews. The highest scoring applications are complete. Instructions were followed. They're neatly presented, typed. They have very clear, well-organized and properly oriented documents as attachments. They have well-written, grammatically correct, and overly detailed essays that communicate the key essay topics. And we're going to discuss that when we get to part 4 of the application. So make it perfect, make it the best that you can, get your first impression a good one. Again, general rules to follow with any scholarship. I can't stress more. I can't stress enough to make sure you follow the instructions precisely. Don't think that, oh, they said this, but I think this looks better on mine, or I don't need to do this. Just follow the instructions. And the other thing is, just be truthful. There's some things that you might feel you don't want to disclose because it will reflect negatively in your application. We're going to talk more about that in relationship to the essay. If you're not truthful in your application, some of that's going to peek out in your application. Things are not going to line up, and they're not going to make sense. So just be truthful. All of the applications must be submitted as a single PDF file. And Gina's going to talk to us about merging PDF files and how to keep track of all your files when you start applying for multiple scholarships. For this particular scholarship, they want you to label your file a certain way. They want last name, first name, AEMSF, and the year. So don't think that, I'm going to put my first name first and then my last name. No, just follow the instructions. Compress your documents to a manageable file size. The instructions for this particular scholarship, they request that it be less than 10 megabytes. And have your name clearly on every single page of this application. As you can see, it's, 8 pages or more? And as judges are reviewing piles of scholarships, if your name isn't on every single page, they might get lost or confused as to which application they're reading. So I always recommend upper right-hand corner, bold print, your name and the date. Every single page, so they know whose information they're reading. That's your brand. You want them to see your name a lot. You want them to remember your name. Let's see. Okay. Presentation matters. Obviously, do not handwrite your applications. Don't write on the margins. Don't add stuff on the margins. Pay attention to detail. The text should fit on the lines provided on the application form. Make sure that every line item, every box in the grid has information in it. If you leave it blank, they won't know that you either missed that part of the application or you just decided not to fill it in. So put NA or put 0. Make sure every single blank is filled up. The grid form should be accurate and readable. Provide crisp, clear documents, images, and attachments. Please, please, please feel free to use Grammarly, spell check, any other aids that you have to double check your application for errors. And if you're including the 99s in your essay, just make sure you do it in the correct format. So it's 99S, no apostrophe. Okay? They're picky about that. Okay, so now we're going to go to the application in front of you. All right, so part 1. So this isn't a bad example of, or a good example of what not to do on your scholarship. The application package is available online. They advise you to download the PDF file in that format and then work on it on your own computer. Don't use the PDF immediately from the website. You can run into format errors if you do. Yeah. So even though this applicant actually has good information in there, she looks like a good candidate. With the runoffs into the margins, the crossouts, it just makes you think that they were in a hurry, they didn't pay attention to detail. If they compare that to a nicely typed application, they're probably going to go for that. At the very bottom there, in the middle of your page here, it says list flight training scholarships that you received in the year prior or that are pending this year. And I feel that some people might think that if they list, You know, I applied for Kamaswashugul and I was awarded that. I applied for Women in Transportation and I was awarded that. That might make the judges of this scholarship less likely to award them money because they've received it. It's the exact opposite. If you have won awards from other organizations, that means that they have vetted you and they believe in you. And that looks very positive towards you getting other awards. So don't hesitate. Don't, like I said, be truthful. If you have pending scholarships, just put them all in here, okay? All right. And then working down, we're still on part 1 under aviation. This is where an example of formatting issues that can come up with some of these online forms. If this happens, just reboot your application. Make sure you downloaded it to your computer. If it continues to happen, you could check back with the organization that's submitting that's sponsoring the scholarship. Maybe they don't know that there's a formatting error on their application, and maybe they can help you through it. One thing about this part of the application too, the first entry level there says total flight hours. And that number, that piece of information is actually asked 3 different times in this scholarship application. And you want to make sure that you use the same number for each 3 times that question is asked. And I'll point out those other areas for you. And another common thing that scholarships will ask for is to explain your financial need. Again, this is an area where you just need to be honest. You might, if you're not working or haven't worked, you can describe that a little bit in this tiny bit of space, but don't go overboard trying to explain things in this part. Just put in the facts. When you get to your essay, this is where you can explain, I haven't worked for the last 5 years because I was raising 3 kids and then my mom broke her hip and had to move in, or you had an injury, or your type of work isn't even available anymore, or any of those things. Just put in your facts here. Maybe you can get in a little bit of information on the second question, but then this is where your essay will come in handy, and you can explain some of these gaps or some of the information that isn't so clear. All right, so what is financial need? So financial need isn't just simply the fact that you don't make a lot of money. Even people who make decent money can have financial needs. Here's some examples that you live in a rural area and the FBO there doesn't have a twin plane, so you need to drive to Pendleton to get your multi-engine rating. That they don't have a CFII at your airport, so you have to go someplace else to get your instrument rating. This is where you use your essay to substantiate your financial needs. Other things that can cause a financial need is living in a place where a high cost of living. If your rent is high, all your other expenses are high. You might be making decent money, but you need more to get your flight training in. So you might have student loan debt from some previous education that you've done. You might have had some medical issues along the way, and you have some medical debt. And there might be some other financial obligations. And you can explain those briefly in your essay, not on that tiny little spot. Did it go? Okay. Okay. Part 2. So this is one of the 2 grids that are in the application. This is an example where they got the numbers all lined up. Everything looks nice and tidy, as opposed to something like this. So they're a little bit kind of big, a little different size, and I don't know what the plus means. I guess they just didn't want to put in the real number or whatever, but this is vague and kind of sloppy. So get your grids nice and tidy. Again, the upper left-hand box is total time. This is the second place in the application that it asks for that, so that needs to match the number you put on part 1. Okay, part 3. All right, we're back on part 2 for flight training, or for time building. So they have a small space there for you to explain your time building, if that's applicable to the award that you're applying for. For example, if you're trying to get an award to work on your instrument rating, you need to have a certain amount of cross-country hours before you start that. This is where you would explain how you're going to fill these time-building gaps that you might have. So the example there where it says, I'll try the best I can do to get my 50 hours of PC time or cross-country time. That's very vague. It doesn't show that you actually know how to do that or have any plan on how you're going to do that. So this is where you can be really specific. I need 40 more hours of PIC. For my instrument rating, I plan to fly 3 hours across country a week, and I should be, for the requirement, within 3 months. They've set up some block time for their plane rental, and they have some money in savings to cover the cost of that. And so that shows that you know what it will take to get you there, and that you've made a plan and you have a path to follow for your time building. Okay. Moving on. Part 3. So part 3 is the form that you're going to take to your CFI or your FBO and have them fill in an estimate for how much this rating is, or the education that you're seeking a scholarship for. Just know that every block in here needs to be filled in. If there isn't an amount, you should have a 0 or a line through it. All these totals should add up. And at the bottom of the form where they ask for a signature, this needs to be a handwritten signature. And then you're going to copy that form and add it. Oh, excuse me. You're going to copy that form and add it to your application package. If they send you something like that is unreadable, lots of blanks left, not complete, offer to take it home and fill it out neatly for them, bring it back to them, and have them sign it. If they do this, just make sure that that signature date at the bottom of the page is well within your scholarship due date period. If you're doing this after that, as advised by your chapter chairman or so, you can take it back to them, but just make sure that that date is before your due date, or you get disqualified. Okay, so now on to the. So an essay is probably common throughout any aviation scholarship that you're going to apply for. An essay is a piece of writing that aims to convince someone of something or to inform the reader about a particular topic. In order for the reader to be convinced or adequately informed, the essay must include several important components to make it flow in a logical way. So an essay is an essay. It has an introduction paragraph, a body, and a conclusion. It is not a letter. It doesn't start with dear trustees or dear judges, and it doesn't end with sincerely or thank you, anything like that. It's an essay. So again, on this page, you want your name, your brand, big bold letters in the upper right-hand corner of this page, and then continue with your essay. So the way I think these essays should be approached is when you get your application, find out what the key essay topics are. And at the top of the page here, there's 3 bullet points for what the key topics are that they want you to answer in the essay. There's actually about 11 points within these 6 bullet points that they've listed here. So sit down, pen and paper, write the answers to those. You need to be specific. You need to show that you have a plan, and get those done first. Then fill in the rest of your essay with the good stuff about your history, or more about your goals, or what motivates you, about your volunteerism, which is usually one of the key points. Then you can fill it in to fit the page. Let's see here. Their essay also is where you need to use your essay for to fill in some of those gaps that might have occurred earlier on in the application, such as the financial need or any gaps you might have had in your training that might show up in your logbook. So your essay is where you can explain that. And after that, get creative. Brush up on your essay writing skill and format. Think of your hook. You know, what's unique about you, what's unique about your story, so that they'll remember you and remember your application above and beyond the 100 other applications they have to read through. Bring the reader in. You want to build empathy. You want them to become your cheerleader, is what we like to see. Avoid a lot of I am, I will, I have, I feel. And again, it is not a letter. Do not use hello, my name is so-and-so. It's an essay. Using inspirational quotes, it doesn't really show who you are. It doesn't, it's just, don't use them. It takes up space. You know, you need most all the space you're allotted to get everything in with the key topics and explaining your financial need and those other things. So we really don't recommend using inspirational quotes. Eliminate any redundant information that you have already put in other parts of the application. You don't have to explain, information about your logbook unless it's different than normal. So don't repeat anything that's already in here. And again, your essay is where you're going to address these red flags. If you have a logbook that shows a big gap of time on your logbook pages, explain what happened there. You were moving, you were hospitalized, you had family members who were sick, you had a CFIs that kept changing and rotating and moving out. Something like that is going to show up. Just explain that in your essay. Do you have a lot of hours with little progress? Again, was your CFIs always changing? Do you have a learning disability? Do you have dyslexia? Does it take you longer to learn stuff? Put that in your essay. Do you have few hours and little progress over a long period of time? Life happens. And you can just put that in your essay and explain it. Are you repeating the same lessons over and over? Does it just take you longer? When you address these issues about these hurdles that you've had and these challenges that you have in your flying and in reaching your goals, if you explain those, how you have seen them, you have met them, you have overcome them, the skills that you use to get through these hurdles, that speaks volumes in your essay. And it shows who you are, it shows that you're in it for the long run, and that you're creative enough to find ways around these hurdles that we all reach. So don't leave the judges wondering about your situation. Tackle it head on. How you're handling adversity and what you learn from it can pump up your application. Remember, a scholarship is an investment in a 99, and illustrate how you're a good choice for that. All right. So fonts and space. So this is part 5. No, excuse me, I'm on the wrong page. Part 4. So you can put your essay in this space. I don't recommend it. Most essays are put on a different piece of paper and added to the package. The instructions state to use a number 12 font. Do not cram your information all into a small space. Make sure you leave carriage returns at the beginning of the paragraphs. Don't waste your space. Fill it with your story. Make it easy to read. And put all your information in there. Okay. So sometime along the way, you might be applying to several different scholarships, one right after another at the same time, and you might be tempted to just repeat your essay from a previous scholarship or your letter of recommendation from a previous scholarship. Just don't do it. It's going to show, it's going to look awkward in your package. You can use elements of it, but tailor your essays to the specific scholarships. Their key topics are going to be a little bit different. So make sure you nail those down first and then put in your creative stuff and your unique things about you to fill in the essay. And same with letters of recommendations. I know it might be inconvenient to have to ask somebody for more than one letter of recommendation, but I've had some of them come across addressed to the wrong people before, so just don't redo your letters of recommendations. Make sure that your letters of recommendations are dated, ideally a month before the due date of your scholarship. And the letters of recommendations, we'll talk about this more later too, need to be physically signed or electrically signed. And also, if you've submitted a essay or an application one year and you weren't awarded that scholarship and you reapply, if your essay didn't make it the first time around, it's not going to make it the second time around. So don't recycle your essays and your letter of recommendations. Okay? All right, so more on letter of recommendations. These are letters. So these should be addressed to, for example, in this scholarship application, it's to the Amelia Earhart Memorial Scholarship Fund trustees and judges. You should not request a letter of recommendation from your family or your spouse. It needs to be somebody who can attest to your moral character, your work ethic, your drive, and ability in attaining your goals. So like I mentioned before, your flight instructors, your previous teachers, or any of your mentors, or any of your employers. The letters of recommendation should be specific to the award, dated and signed within a month before the due date. And they, like I said, they need to be either hand-signed, copied, and then merged with your file, or they can be in an electric signature. They need to have detailed examples of your character, not just lovely, inspiring adjectives. So if they can write an example of how you showed up early for every meeting and you brought food and helped and stayed late after every meeting, you helped clean up, you were the reliable one that they could always call on to pick up something that somebody forgot. If they can kind of tell a little story that's about your character and your work ethic, that's a great thing to have in a letter of recommendation. Also, if you have gotten to the end of your essay and you have some really good stuff, you really want to put in and you don't have room for it, let the person who's writing your letter of recommendation know about that, and they can add it in their letter so that the judges will have that information as well. Okay. Moving on. All right, so part 6, there are several attachments that need to come with this application. They want a copy of your private pilot's license, front and back, a copy of your medical certificate that's applicable for the rating that you're applying for. Make sure, put those all on one page. This will help compress your application package, and so things won't get lost. Only submit the required documents that the instructions ask for. If you put in an extra resume or maybe an extra letter of recommendation, it's just going to make your package bigger. It's going to show them that you didn't follow instructions, and it really won't add to your application. It'll subtract. So just stick with what they ask for. Oops. Let me go back. So this is a good example of a bad way to supply your private pilot certificate. It's unreadable. The orientation is wrong. Judges don't like to lean their heads over. So make sure everything is how they can read it easily with the orientation. Such as your logbooks. They fit so easy going the other way, but yeah, the judges don't want to turn their heads. So make sure when you attach them that they're aligned horizontally, that they're clear and legible. And this is the third place in the application where your total time needs to match those 2 other pages that ask for total time. So if you have a logbook page that isn't full, they want all those titles at the bottom to be completed, and you can just do the top totals and the bottom totals in pencil to the date that you've gotten your flying in. And then after you've sent in your application and you've got that all sent in, you can just complete your logbook pages as usual. But fill in the totals at the bottom, and that total time should be the same as on the other 2 pages in the application. And also on these pages and the other attachment page, make sure you have your name, big bold, upper right-hand corner, so they know exactly whose attachment this is. On your logbooks, also make sure that the year is filled in on the date there, and yeah, the year and just all the dates. Oh, they also ask for currency for this application. Find in your logbook either your last biannual flight review or your last rating. Highlight that, put a star by it, write currency there, and then you'll need to attach that page as well. And another good example of a bad way to do things would be, to put your logbooks like that, and how you can't read it. So clear scans, or maybe it's better on from your smartphone, are much superior to poor X-ray copies. I've had a couple of applications come through this last year with electronic logbooks. It's very easy to read. I think the biggest problem we had with those was it took them a while to reduce it down to 2 logbook pages. So you might have to do some finessing with that, but that's totally fine if that's what you're using. Okay, the finished application. So once you've finished all the pages here and you've got all your attachments copied and put together, check it, examine all parts for accuracy, have more than 2 other people reread everything, make sure every space, every blank has something in it, that you haven't forgotten anything, that you have your name big and bold on every page. use Grammarly, check attachments, and then submit it to your chairperson. I recommend at least 2 days early. Sometimes the applications don't transfer or don't forward well, and they can't open it up on the other end. So you want to make sure that they've received your application, they're able to open up the file, and that everything is readable and everything transferred. Okay, so you've worked through the 8 pages of your first application. You have this fantastic essay. You've got all this time, all these hours, and you've done all this volunteering, and you sent it in, and it got passed through the chapter, passed through the section. It went on to international for judging, and April comes around, and you didn't get the award. You didn't get the scholarship. So what are the benefits of not getting an award? The information that you have to supply in this type of award, it should should firm your plan for your goals and how you're going to get there. So if you didn't have a goal and a plan how to get there before, you do now. So follow your goal, follow your plan, how you laid out it, how you were going, where you were going to get money if you didn't get the scholarship, how often are you going to fly, what are you going to do? So continue on your goal and your path. Discuss areas for improvement with your scholarship chairman. Ask them, what can I do to make my chances better next year? And they can usually guide you to some more volunteer opportunities. There's always something you can volunteer for, regardless if you have, just 1 hour a month or if you have 10 hours a month to volunteer. There's always something you can do. Use your time to research other scholarships. There should pretty much be a part-time job for you researching scholarship. There's many of them online. There's many sources for aviation scholarships for women. And just keep going at it. The more you apply for scholarships, the better you'll get at it. The judges, if you reapply to some previous scholarships, the judges will remember you. And if you show them how much progress you've made from your last application, they'll be impressed, and that's very favorable to judges. And this is one of our members, Gia Sim. She had a lot of hurdles. She's from South Korea. She moved to the United States specifically to get her pilot's license. English was her second language. And she applied to the Amelia Earhart Scholarship 1 year, and she didn't get it. She was crushed, and I told her keep doing it. And she finally got Amelia Earhart Scholarship for her multi-engine rating. She said, this was from last year actually, that she's working as a CFI and she met her ATP requirements, and her advice was, don't give up even though you don't get it this year. Keep trying, make your essay unique and special. Keep volunteering as much as you can, then you will get it someday. So from Gia. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Completely fine. All right, we'll take a break for about 5 minutes or so. There are some snacks in the back if you'd like some. Bathroom toward the back. So see you back here in 5.
Oh, thank you.
Let me know it's on. Let me know it's on. We're going to get starting here and hello, welcome back. Coming up next, instead of Gina, we're going to start first with Erin Unger. She got her private pilot's license back in 1991 and is currently a captain at Delta. So she'll tell you a bit more about her journey and a bit more about resumes.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. It's good to see so many faces, young and ones I already know, so thank you for joining us today. As Noelle said, I started flying a long time ago, in 1991, and I've worked my way through this industry, and I'm now just a recent captain upgrade at Delta Airlines. Been there for 25 years, and seen a lot and done a lot, so hopefully I can impart some wisdom to y'all, but right now it's going to be about resumes. So out of curiosity, do any of you have a pilot resume yet? Couple people do. Are you all professional pilot desire course, or do you want to do something else in aviation? Everyone pilot oriented? We already talked, so you know. Yes. so one non-pilot, most everyone else pilot. Okay. This is going to be geared mostly towards pilot resumes, which have a very kind of specific format. So we'll go over some of those items, and then tell you how to make your best first impression, what to put in, what not to put in, and some tips and common mistakes that they see. So when I start a new project or have a task to complete, I try and get a bird's eye view or a flight level 350 view of what I need to do and what the goal is for that task. And the purpose of a resume can be summarized into 4 different line items. You want to summarize your qualifications. You want to reveal at a glance, it should be a very quick overview, whether you're qualified or will soon be qualified for the job that you're applying for. You want to spark some interest with the person who's reviewing your resume so they have a desire to continue to learn more about you. And you want to hopefully result in getting an offer for a job interview. So you're trying to open the door and say, hey, look at me. I'm qualified and you're going to really like working with me. So those are the things you're going to want to kind of keep in mind as you compile all your information for your resume. As I said, some things for a great first impression for a pilot resume or for an aviation resume in general. A nice, clean layout, something that they can look at, it's easy on the eyes, and they can find things quickly. They can find the information they need easily and quickly. It's a single-page resume. That's not always the case for some industries. In the pilot industry, single page, no more. There's some exceptions to that, and there's noted for those of you here in person, there's a sheet that you got when you came in, tips for resumes. That's information I compiled from a gal named Jenny Beatty. She's a very strong advocate for women in aviation. She's a Lifetime 99 and a Lifetime Women in Aviation member, and she has got her own website. So she lists some exceptions to that single-page resume, but pretty much a single-page resume. As Teresa said, proofread. Details matter in this industry. We're a detail-oriented industry. If you don't pay attention to the details in your resume, they're going to assume you don't pay attention to details in the airplane. So correlate what the job requires to what the emphasis you put on your resume and your applications. And this is your chance to brag about yourself. Highlight things in your past, in your history, your experiences that are going to make them take a second look at you. But be honest about it and don't over-glorify yourself. Make sure it's legitimate, and it's not always easy to shine your light on yourself, but take that time to do that. So here is a generic resume on the left. I got this template from Kit Darby's website. There's several online sources you can get for resume assistance in the aviation world. Kit Darby's been in the business since I was in college in the 90s. He's a retired United pilot, very traditional format, but it's a very good place to start. There's other resources, and you'll see some going through here. But there's some general elements, and you're going to pretty much answer about 4 questions on this resume. You're going to tell them, what do you want? Why are you giving them a resume? You're going to tell them, what do you have? What kind of certification training do you have? What have you done? What experience, work experience do you have? And then what are you passionate about? Those 4 general categories will be covered with your objective, your relevant flight information, your flight time certificates, your work experience, and any community involvement that you have. One small point about the objective. In the airline world, when you're applying to an airline job, they don't want to see objectives. They know why you're applying to them. you want to be a pilot for them. But in other facets of this industry, if you're not flying, or if you're flying corporate, or if you're flying Part 135, an objective might be more applicable in there, because those jobs tend to have demands that go beyond flying in the airplane. If you're flying 135 or flying corporate, you need to have some different interpersonal skills. You're doing more than just flying. So that might be highlighted in the objective. So that's the caveat to that. Other things to include: your education. What's the highest level of education you've completed? State the school, the degree that you have. If your GPA is above 3.0, put it on there. It's a chance to brag about yourself. Again, highlight your benefits and the assets you bring to the company that you're looking to work for, or the scholarship you're applying for. Experience: when you're listing the experience items, make sure you frame those skills and experiences in a way that's translatable to the job or the resume or the scholarship that you're applying for. Use action words. You're a hard worker, or something along. There's some generic words to use, but the general feel. Show that you're a hard worker, detail-oriented, again, very important in this business. A team player, another very important skill set in this business. You're able and capable and comfortable in leadership roles, and you have follow-through, completion. Those are things that can all be demonstrated in various aspects on your resume. Contact information: make sure your name is at the top. As you saw here, it's nice and centered, it's bold, easy to find. Phone number and email. I've heard different things about having a permanent physical address listed on your resume. Some say it's needed, some say it's not. Some say that if you're applying to a job out of state, maybe don't put the address if you're willing to move. So some of these things are flexible and fluid depending on who your audience is for this resume. Adding LinkedIn is another recommendation sometimes, but make sure you keep your LinkedIn profile current. Someone else suggested possibly putting a QR code on your resume for the LinkedIn. I haven't seen that personally, but that's something to think about, or having a business card with your QR code to your LinkedIn profile if you keep it current and active. If you're on social media, most everyone knows, if it's public, make it appropriate. Don't make it inappropriate. And what's appropriate for one may not be appropriate for others. And just remember, this industry is very conservative, typically. So things that are very overly creative or normal for you may not be normal for, say, Delta Airlines. So know your audience and be careful what you have on social media. The last thing up there is references and availability. Generally, no need to put references on your application. Used to be always you put them on there. I don't personally think that's necessary. They know they can ask for it, but just something to keep in mind. You might see examples of that as you go through. And your availability, how soon can you start work? If you've got the space in that one page, maybe something you want to put on there. You may not need it. You could say that you're immediately available, or that you require or prefer 2 weeks notice, but something that you may need but you may not need on your resume, but to consider. Along those lines, what do you want to leave off your resume? You don't want it to look too cluttered. Again, you want your resume to look easy on the eye. You want the reviewer to be able to find the information they need quickly and easily. If it's hidden or not brought out properly with font and formatting, it's going to make it difficult for them to find the information they want. They're only going to look at your resume for a very few seconds. And if they don't get the information they want immediately, your resume will be put to the side. Especially if you're at a career fair or someplace like that, where they're seeing hundreds of people in one day. If they can't see quickly, yes, she's qualified, we'll look at her later. Then if they can't find that quickly, you'll go to the side. For those of you who are younger, you may want to put your high school information on there if you're under 18, if you're applying for scholarships or something like that, or a job at the local airport. But if you're older, don't put high school information. It's not needed. And then overly personal information is not needed either, and not recommended at all. No headshots, no relationship status. Don't say you're single or married. Don't go on long-winded about your hobbies or activities. And apparently, Kat Keller did this presentation last year, and she gets a lot of applications for resumes at Hillsborough. She was in the hiring process for the pilots out there, and apparently someone did a poem one time. Again, we're a conservative business. If you might think that gets the right attention, it doesn't. So don't do that. Two important things that I'm going to reiterate a couple times here is that your resume is a living document. It's never going to be stagnant. Once you make your first resume in this business, that's just for that moment. It needs to grow and change with you as you grow and change in this business. And it also needs to grow and change based on who your audience is for that particular resume. Are you applying for a scholarship? Are you applying for a job? Are you applying for a charter position? Are you applying for a flight instructor position? Are you applying for a pilot position? All of those things will dictate what you put on your resume, where you put it on your resume, and certain things might fall off that resume based on those questions that you're asking yourself. Along those lines, you're going to have different stages in your career in this industry. You're going to start out at stage 1. These are stages that Jenny Beatty mentions in that paperwork I gave you all. When you have very little experience, you're a college student, you're changing careers, or you're a new commercial pilot. List all the aviation experience you have in the situation, whether it's paid or unpaid. Are you volunteering at your local FBO just to hang out or help clean up on the weekends? Are you working with the local aviation organization? Do you have a leadership position with those organizations? Anything that might show that you have a sincere and earnest interest in this industry. Highlight that and put that on your resume. Your work experience is going to be varied. It's not going to be all aviation related, and that's okay, because you can still show the traits and the characteristics that are valuable in this industry through other work sources. And so you want to make sure that you can highlight those things as well. Awards and activities, leadership roles, volunteer work, that's all very important at the early stage. You don't have a work history to show your dedication to the industry. So you show it other ways. And you can bolster your resume and your viability for scholarships and work through all these other resume builder type opportunities. And on the side note, those actions with the organizations like 99s and Women in Aviation, you get to know other people in the industry, and it's a great way to network and understand and learn the industry you're going to spend the rest of your career doing potentially. So you benefit from it in multiple ways. As you progress through and get more experience, you kind of enter the stage 2 section of your journey. And this is when you have more professional flight experience for pilots. And if you're working in the safety side, you maybe have more aviation-specific safety background or safety experience. You're going to want to make that as a highlight in the top of your resume. Put all your professional flying, and for most of you, experience at the top of your resume, and make sure it's in chronological order with the most recent experience at the top. That way, when a reviewer looks at it, boom, boom, within the first third of the resume, they can see, oh, yep, they're qualified, yep, they've got some great experience, I'm going to look at her later, especially if they're doing a one-on-one kind of thing at a career event. As you get more of that experience, you may want to delineate in your work experience that you're only listing specific information, like only your aviation work experience, or only your flying experience, or only your airline flying experience, because you've built so much depth of a resume that that's all you can fit on that single page. And as that portion of your resume expands, then the other elements will start falling off. Before you know it, you won't have anything on your resume that's not aviation related. And you won't have anything on your resume that's not flying related for pilots. But that takes time. And so there's stages of development of your resume. I think on stage 4 on that sheet, she mentions if you're applying for a government job, then a single page resume is not necessarily the norm. And so she has some specifics on there. If you're applying for a non-pilot or a government position, there are some other criteria to look at. So this is just a starting point, but gives you some place to kind of launch off and get some more information from. Some common mistakes. Teresa mentioned this, and I've alluded to it. Typos, spelling errors, poor grammar, they don't fly. So you have to make sure that you proofread everything very closely. Have more than one person look at your resume. There's all these templates out there, so you think you can just input your information to these templates and boom, you're done. Your resume is all good to go. And that's not how it works. So you have to take the time to input the information, make sure that you're seeing what's actually on the paper, that you're communicating exactly what you want to be communicating, that you're not inadvertently highlighting the wrong thing or spending too much space on something else. And pay attention to the details. Like I said, this is a detail-oriented industry. Details matter. If you don't pay attention to details on your resume, on your application, on your essays, they're going to think you don't pay attention to details in the airplane. And that has safety issues. So all of that kind of correlates, along with team player. We may be flying an airplane single pilot, but you're also working with ATC, you're working with ground personnel. If you come across as a a lone wolf or an independent person who doesn't work well with others, that doesn't fly either, because you need to be able to work with the person next to you to successfully navigate a challenging situation together. So these are things you can bring out in resumes or essays in subtle ways that can speak very loudly. Some of those details also, we have pilot certificates. I know we go back and forth between certificates and licenses, but you technically have a certificate, so make sure you reference a certificate, and that your ratings and certificates are listed just like they are on your certificate. So those details, just like the 99 with no apostrophe S, those things matter. And I work for Delta Airlines. It's 3 words, not 2 words. It's a very common mistake, so, and it's joked about within the industry. So if you send a resume into Delta Airlines with 2 words, you're not going to get looked at. So it's an easy into the garbage kind of resume. Readability comes in the form of font. Teresa also touched on this, and your layout. And we'll look at some layouts in a minute. There are some listed font choices. You can kind of play around and see what works for you, what you like. No symbols, these are emojis. A lot of these scans and applications are scanned in. They don't scan well. Plus, they don't look professional. So just make sure that you don't have any of those extraneous little things on your resume. Don't duplicate information that's already covered in your application, your essay. Just like Teresa said, don't duplicate something in your essay that's already in your application. You have valuable space to utilize, so utilize it efficiently. If you're in a situation where you're going to have a personal interaction with someone, you're going to go to a local airport to say, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'd really love to pump gas at your airport to get experience, which I did when I was 19. Or you're going to a career fair and you're more experienced and you want to get noticed for a pilot position. Make sure you use high quality paper. It may seem like a small detail, but if you have really good, thick, heavyweight resume paper, linen finish, in a white or ivory, no color, no scent, may seem strange, no scent, not in a folder, not in a plastic cover, not in any kind of additional thing, just a single piece of quality paper, resume quality. It'll carry a lot of weight because, again, you're paying attention to the details, and details matter. And I've mentioned this already, but you have to know your audience. Don't ignore your audience. If they're asking for certain type of experience or type rating in a certain airplane or tail wheel time or whatever, make sure your resume says you have that experience. Just like your resume, your essay, or your application. If they're asking for that they need someone with certain skill sets or experience, make sure you highlight those skill sets and experience on your resume. Again, it's a living document. It's not the same resume for every job you apply for. And again, it's a generally conservative industry, so keep that in mind. Keep very traditional, and it'll carry more weight and give you a better impression going forward than if you try and get yourself noticed through maybe I'll just try this. They'll remember my resume because it has this little different thing to it. It's probably not going to be the case. And last but not least, as far as what not to do, and I think Gina's probably going to touch on this, in this digital world, make sure you name your file with your resume, your name, resume, and the date. I've been hearing that a lot of HR people get resumes named resume, and they get 50 to 100 resumes, filed resume, and they don't know which one it is. And I just saw this posted online the other day by Jenny Beatty, of course, and somebody inadvertently sent an image of Nicolas Cage to a recruiter because the file name was similar to her cover letter and resume. Not the best first impression. So make sure you have it a name that you can find easily on your computer, but they cannot, your recruiter, HR, whoever can find it as well. All right, so here are some, I just want to look at these briefly because they're just some basic templates that you can kind of get a feel for what I'm talking about, the layout and where your eye goes naturally to a resume. And these unfortunately are specifically pilot resumes. The one on the left is from Kit Darby. The one on the right is from Spitfire Elite, another aviation resource. Kit Darby, like I said, he's been around for 30 plus years. I've been flying since 1991. He was coming to my college back then. He's a retired United pilot. He has tons of resources, but he's got a very traditional resume format. It works, and it's probably a really good place to start. It still has the objective on it, and it still has availability on the bottom there. So that's just a more traditional format. On the right with Spitfires, they've eliminated the objective, and they've eliminated the references or the availability. And again, no references are needed. They know they can get them from you. You don't need to take up space on a single page resume for it. Certificates and ratings at the top. Again, for pilot positions, they need to know, are you certified? What's your qualification? And then your flight time. And we'll discuss the flight time categories in a minute. Work experience, education in this case towards the bottom, and other training and activities on the bottom. But you can kind of look at these and see where your eyes go naturally and where you're gonna, the reviewer is gonna try and probably find the information first. These are two other templates from Spitfire Elite. Again, basic overall format similar with flight time experience and additional information, but they're laid out differently. So these are all going to be online, and so you can also take a look. I've got, at the end of this presentation, I've got the links to both of those sites. So you can just play around with them and see what you like and what you think. But the reviewer has to be able to find out if you're qualified quickly. All right, so some real examples. Here's mine. So the one on the left I did 25 years ago, when I applied for the Women in Aviation Scholarship way back in the day. So I was only a few years out of college. I was a captain at Horizon Airlines at the time, and so I had some professional experience, but it was for a scholarship. The one on the right, my last resume I ever made was in 2006, so obviously I haven't had to update my resume in a long time. But I was on furlough from Northwest after 9/11, and I was looking for flight jobs during that time, and so I updated my resume on the right. It's for a flight position versus a scholarship, so we'll see where I put things differently on those, and I'm also have different level of experience. The one on the right, I had 2 other flight jobs that I could add to the list, and so it caused me to make some different decisions. And I got married, so my name changed. So on the left, the second item on my resume is my education. Again, I was applying for a scholarship. I went to a university that was very well known for their aviation program, a University of North Dakota grad, and I had a decent GPA. So that, to me at the time, gave that a lot of credibility and gave it some good weight. So I put it higher in my resume. Flash forward to 6 years later, I'm just applying for a flight position. I have more actual work experience. Education went to the bottom. It's still important, but it's not as important as my work experience. Flight time categories. Not sure if you guys can see it very well, but there's different elements that I highlighted. On the left one, I've got cross-country time delineated. I've got recency of experience. Those are all kind of specific towards the scholarship applications that they would want to see certain time qualifications. Also, it's an identification of the time I was flying in the 2000s. Not every airplane had glass flight decks, and so I had listed glass time. Back then, that was valuable because not everyone had glass experience. In 2006, it's for a job. They know I can fly across country. They know I've got nighttime. They know I've got glass time based on my work experience. So now they want to know, do I have pilot and command time? Do I have turbine time? Do I have turboprop time? Do I have jet time? So those are more valuable on the right resume. So again, it morphed and it changed. I added the additional jobs on the right resume when I had increased them. I was a charter pilot here locally at Flightcraft while I was furloughed. And then I also put my DC-9 first officer position on there. So that all pushed my work experience and knocked off my last non-flying position that was on my resume, which was a line attendant that I worked for summer in northern Minnesota in 1993. And so it no longer fits. So it finally got pushed off my resume. So all of my work experience is now flight pilot experience. So again, it grew with me as I moved through the industry. At the bottom, on the left one, again, I was applying for a scholarship. So there's certain things I want to highlight and brag about more so than on the right one. I want to brag about my scholarships I've received in the past. I want to brag about organizations I was in, leadership roles I was in, additional training I have done, volunteer work I have done. All of that was very valuable for a scholarship resume, not so valuable for a pilot resume 6 years later. So it fell off my resume. So again, it's a living document that needs to move and grow with you as you move through the industry. Looking at this now in 2025, I don't really like my resume on the right. I don't think the format I think it looks out of balance. I think it doesn't show everything that it should. And I can honestly tell you I hastily edited my resume because I just needed to get something out there. So resumes take time and take energy. When you work on it, set it aside for a while and come back to it. Make sure you still like how it looks. Make sure that you're looking at what you want to highlight, that you're highlighting what is important for that particular audience, and that you haven't missed a typo because you read something 5 times the way you expected to read it, and then in reality, you had misspelled it or had done something differently. Get some other eyes on it, not just pilots or aviators, get other people's eyes on it to make sure that they're not missing anything, that you're not missing anything that they caught. So Kat Keller did this presentation last year, and so she, like I said, did hiring out at Hillsborough. And so she's seen lots of resumes come over her desk, and so she had a couple examples. And I just saved 2 of the ones that she had because I thought they could really be valuable. One is this gentleman, and he has a lot of experience, a ton of experience. And then the next one I'll show you is a more low-time pilot. Good positive things about this resume. He's got, like I said, a ton of experience. The man has got management experience. He's got types in multiple airplanes. He's got international operations experience. Kat appreciated that he had a personal statement on this resume. Like I said, most pilot resumes don't have objectives, but this is a corporate flight department, a charter flight department. And it's valuable in this setting. He knew the audience in that regard, and it was a valuable addition to his resume. He includes all his certifications, and I noticed in his work history, he made sure there were no gaps in the years. There weren't any years where there was no demonstrated work history, which is kind of hard when you're a contract pilot because you don't have a one employer. So from 2000 to 2005, it says other contracts. So for me, knowing this industry, I know that he was a contract pilot for many different people. There was no employer to put down, but it covers that gap. So I liked that element of this. On the downside, however, this pilot, I presume, not knowing him, is probably international based on his multiple passports and his descriptive information on his resume. And so it's not uncommon international pilots have pictures on their resume. Don't do that. In America, we don't do that. So don't waste your space with a picture on an American resume. In this case, he didn't know his audience. He didn't modify his resume for an American employer. The layout itself is hard to read. When you look at that layout, do you instantly find his flight time? Can you instantly find his work experience? Can you instantly find what certification he has? Everything's kind of in paragraphs with no headings and no kind of formatting benefits to draw your eye to one thing or another. So it's hard to follow, and Kat noted that the 2-column format is not very enjoyable. So some good things and some things to work on there. This resume is from a much less experienced pilot who's starting out, less than 1,000 hours of flight time. When I look at this resume, it looks very pleasant to the eye. It's balanced, it's easy to read, it looks really nice. And Kat agreed. She said she can find the flight hours really nicely. She can read the ratings and certificates, and she liked the layout. The room for improvement is something that I noticed, and it may be a good thing, it may not be, it may be something you want to change. For me, when I looked at that resume, the work experience is a slightly larger font and took up more space on the resume. So my eye naturally went to the work experience, and it didn't go right to the flight time and the certification. Now, he doesn't have a lot of flight time, so maybe that's a good thing. Maybe he wants to highlight that he's the work experience over the flight time. But maybe there'll be a time where he wants to highlight the flight time and certificates over the work experience. So it's a subtle thing that can make a big difference because you're trying to make a first impression with a single piece of paper. So something to keep in mind. Some of it's personal and some of it's is more straightforward. Ultimately, it reminded me, I wrote proofread 3 times. It reminded me when I was a flight instructor, and I used to have to tell my students, write rudder, write rudder, write rudder. And by the 3rd time I said it, they actually heard me and did it. And so proofread, proofread, proofread. I can't say it enough. Just like Teresa said, it's so important that you have a perfect document that goes out to represent yourself, and that it is a living document. It's going to grow with you, and it needs to grow with you and change with you, and it needs to also be tailored to the audience that you're hoping to reach and what your goal is. Get as many eyes on it as possible. Get reviews. It's not always easy to have someone critique something that's so important to you, but it's important. They're going to catch things. They're going to be telling you, oh, I saw this before. I noticed your flight time, or I noticed this typo, or this format is out of balance to me. You may not see that for yourself. And again, proofread, proofread, proofread. Again, write rudder, write rudder, write rudder. So here are those resources. When you go online, you can get that. Jenny Beatty, she's a wonderful resource for particularly women. She's got some great information articles. I also got information from a Flying Magazine article about how to write aviation resumes, written by a fellow Delta pilot and UND grad, ironically. And then Kit Darby's site, and then Spitfire Elite. There's lots of resources out there, but when you're doing your resume building, make sure you're getting information and recommendations from someone who's specific to aviation. We have very specific things that they look for, and you don't want to take recommendations from someone who's doing a more liberal arts kind of resume, because it won't necessarily carry over. You might make mistakes or inadvertently not have the right information. And this is just for the online people. This is a copy of what you all have in front of you. So I hope this helped. I'll be around later for some more questions. So thanks again for being here. And I think Gina's going to come and talk about how to organize all of this information so you don't lose your mind. So thank you, guys.
All right, we're a little bit tight on time, but Gina Calvario is going to come up speak just a little bit about organization for applications. We're going to try to make this a bit quick because we do know it is a little bit late. We also got started a little bit later. And then we will have the Q&A.
Hello, everyone. Just so you know, I'm holding this mic for the benefit of the YouTubers who are watching us. So you can't hear any sort of, I don't know what the word is for that, loud. There's no speaker attached to this for you, but I'm doing it for everyone watching on YouTube. We have like 24 people watching right now, which is exciting. And then there will be a recording if you ever want to go and watch this again, when you're sitting down to apply to the scholarship, if you need that. So I know it's getting later. It's almost 8, 7:45. I just want a show of hands. Who has applied to an aviation scholarship before? Okay, so we have like 4 or 5 people. So some people are totally new to this. I think it would be valuable to show you what I'm going to show you because it might make it easier for you. I could try to make it short, or we could have more time for Q&A. I kind of want to take a vote. Who would prefer more time with Q&A? I'm totally neutral on this. Who wants to learn about staying organized and how to convert PDFs and merging and splitting and all of that? Okay, I will present then. Okay, so I'm Gina. I'm the secretary for Women in Aviation, and that's a international organization if you haven't heard of us already, and we have local chapters everywhere. We have Rose City here, and I'm also a 99. Am I holding the mic okay? Okay, I'm also a 99. And then this is put on by both groups, which is great. We're all helping each other out. I am going to present to you on how to reduce your stress when you're applying to scholarships. And when you start a flight training journey and you see all the scholarships available out there, it can be overwhelming, especially if you've never applied to one or even if you've only applied to 1 or 2. And I'm going to help you out with that. So I need the connector. I have a little mini presentation on my iPad that I'm going to show you. I'm just going to show you some tips and tricks for how I've stayed organized and made it a little easier on myself over the last 2.5 years. I'm a flight attendant for Alaska Airlines, so that's how I'm in aviation. I've been doing that 10 years. And I decided that I want to work on the other side of the door. I want to get into the flight deck. So I've been working towards that for 2.5 years. And it's very exciting and it's very expensive. So you're always like, I've applied to so many scholarships. You guys have applied to 15 in the last 2.5 years. And I've won 4 or 5. I've won 5, which is very exciting. That's really good. If you win 1 out of every 10, you're doing awesome. So I think I can speak from some experience to try and help you guys get on the path to success. So what's the secret to reducing... How do I make this like a actual PowerPoint? Okay, we'll do it like that. What's the secret to reducing your stress in your application process? It's document organization. Can you all hear me fine, even in the back? Okay, so you want to be able to apply to multiple scholarships with ease and confidence. So it's about starting really well with the way you're organizing your documents. I'm going to show you the typical documents you'll need. I'm going to show you some examples of neat documents, which you've already seen. And then at the very end, I'll show you a free tool to help you do exactly what Teresa was mentioning, which is submitting one single PDF file, which can be intimidating if you don't know how to convert it all into PDFs and merge it all together. The documents you'll typically need for a aviation scholarship. You will need sometimes they will require the written exam. So if you're applying for a scholarship for a private pilot license or for a instrument rating, they might require that the written be complete already. So you want to look months in advance, like Teresa was saying, to see, do I need to be a member of this organization? With how much time do I have to be a member with them beforehand? Do I need a written exam complete? Do I need transcripts? And that just gives you like 3 to 6 months to really start chewing on all of that and getting things ready. You will probably need to produce a nice, neat page, which I will show you with your medical and your pilot license. And then you'll need your essay, which we've already discussed quite a bit tonight, so I'm not going to cover that too much. And then I put maybe for transcripts because I've only applied to one scholarship that required my transcripts, and it was through NGPA. That's the National Gay Pilots Association, I think is what it stands for. And they wanted even my high school transcripts. So it was interesting because it was summer when their scholarship was due, school was closed, and it took me a lot of work to track down my transcripts. So you might want to, that's another reason just to get on it a few months ahead. Aviation resume is a maybe because I haven't run into that too much with scholarships. If you're going to apply to programs, like let's say you decide you want to apply to Ascend, which is Alaska's accelerated flight training program, or you want to apply to Aviate, which is United's accelerated flight training program, or any of the programs out there, they might require or pilot development programs, they'll require some sort of a resume. And because I don't have any, I have some aviation experience with my flight attendant stuff, but like the pilot experience isn't there. I've just bulked it up with the volunteer experience, which is what Erin was talking about. So I'm not going to touch too much more on that, but it's something to start thinking about. And then letters of rec, we've talked a little bit about, but I am going to share a couple quick tips and tips from an applicant's perspective, things I've found that really help the person who's writing. So the first one is you want to pick the right person. So think about the context. If it's for aviation, it's better if it's aviation related, maybe a flight instructor, maybe a mentor. Another great reason to get involved with us, because then you meet fantastic people who can be your mentors and help you and support you and write you letters. But also, if you don't have anyone in aviation, it could be like a character reference, like a teacher or an advisor or something like that. Ask early and ask politely. So I give 6 weeks notice. 2 months is better. 6 weeks, 2 months might be a little too much. 6 weeks is best. And then you want to give a reminder 2 weeks ahead. So you let them know 6 weeks out what you need. You ask in a polite way. So the best way to ask, sorry if that's really tiny. How do I make this big? Is there? You don't. I'm just going to read it to you. So you can say, would you feel comfortable writing me a strong recommendation for blah, blah, blah scholarship? And that gives them the ability to say, I'm actually not comfortable. It kind of gives them an out. Or, yeah, I'd love to, and it's just a polite way to ask. And then you want to make it really easy for them. This is the biggest point that I want to share with you. Make it super easy for them by basically telling them what you want them to write. Because they're busy people. Maybe they have kids. They probably have a full-time job. Maybe they're volunteering. You just, want to make it really easy by saying, this is what I need from you. Here's the accomplishments I want you to highlight. This is what you can send them a copy of the essay you wrote for the scholarship and then say, here's the things I didn't get to put in my essay. Will you add those in? Or will you tell the story about this or give the example about this, like that I came to the scholarship seminar and greeted people outside and was there on time and helped people find where they should park or whatever. So I think that there's lots of ways to make it easy on your people who are writing you letters. Clearly tell them the deadline and then give them a reminder. That's the last thing about that is tell them 2 weeks ahead and say, hey, friendly reminder, be really nice about it. My deadline's in 2 weeks. And I have a pro tip. If my scholarship is due on September 10th, I tell them that the scholarship's due on September 1st because I just want like that buffer. And that way, if they get it to me right on September 1st, I still have a week to like make sure if there's any corrections that need to be made. And then on time. Let's see what else. Thank them sincerely and let them know when you've submitted your application, they're part of your success now. Now they're in your corner and they're really excited for you and they hope that you win. So it's really fun if you keep them updated. And then if you do win, that you celebrate with them if they want to. Go get a cup of coffee, something like that. So that's my 2 cents about letters of recommendation. I'm also going to give you some examples tonight on my document. I'm going to show you my iPad, the way that I organize my documents. So just so you know, it's my personal information. Also, it's just the way I do it, and it's a system I found that really works. So I recommend it, but you are the expert in your own life, so you'll find a system that works for you. And if this is just my way. So let me see. Stay organized. No matter how you decide to do it, stay organized. Organized equals less stress. So what this looks like is naming your files and naming them appropriately. So I use Google as my creation space, Google Drive. You might have somewhere else that you create, but that's where I create my essays. And if I want to create a document with like my medical and my license, I might drop images in there and create the documents. That's where I create. And then when I feel like it's finished, it's totally polished and it's ready to go into the folder that's going to be submitted for scholarship, I share it, to myself as a PDF, and I put it into my files with the year and the name of the scholarship. So you really want to name your files wisely. Why? Because just like Teresa said, there will come a day where maybe you don't get the scholarship this year, but you want to apply again next year. You want to be able to go back into your files and find that essay or find that letter of recommendation that you used specifically for that scholarship last year. And that way you can go, okay, I'm definitely not going to just repeat this essay or reuse this letter of rec. I want to send something fresh. I want to show progress. I want to share the story of the last year of my life. So it's a good thing to have all of those names on your files. Let's see. I don't want to be super long with all of this. I create separate folders for letters of rec. CV is a curriculum vitae. It's what the rest of the world calls a resume. I think resume is just an American thing. And transcripts and docs. So save your work, use the Google Drive, and then save it over into your files. So you have it in 2 places. I was just telling you about the Google Drive, but I'll give you another cool thing about Google Drive is that you can share. You probably already know this, but if you don't, you can share it with your mentors and you can give them commenting access. So then they can live comment on your essay and they can like highlight stuff and write comments. And if it's not a mentor, it might be a friend or someone who's really good at grammar, or they can comment on it and help bring to your attention issues that you might have with your essay. All right, it's example time. File organization. So I'll show you 2 examples of 2 different scholarships that I won actually, to show you how I organized my files. In 2023, first, let me get to my files. Okay. So here's my scholarship folder. And you can see it's all organized by year. So the years that I've applied, I started applying for scholarships in 2022. It's the very first scholarship packet I ever applied for. It's due in October. It's with Women in Aviation. You can apply for up to 3 scholarships with the same essay. That's why we like to do this seminar now in August, because it gives you a couple months to prepare, although I don't know how long you have to have been a member. So look at that. 2023, I applied for too many scholarships. I went crazy. I just wanted to see what all was out there, and it was good. It was a really good experience for me, and I won quite a lot of them. And I go back and I label the ones that I win as winner, so that way when I'm applying for new scholarships, I can look at the winners and say, what's magic about this essay? And maybe I want to model my new essay off of that essay, which I've done time and time again. But just like Teresa was saying, I don't recycle necessarily the same sentence structure, but I'll recycle like sometimes the content. And then I cater it and tailor it specifically for that scholarship, being really detail oriented about what they're asking for. So then in 2024, I had a hard year. I only applied to one. And then this year I applied to two so far and won one of them. So I'll start by showing you and then I have my other documents, CVs. That's where I keep all my CVs as I update them. Resumes. As I update them, like Erin was saying, I don't delete the old ones. I just save it with a new name so I can see the record of how my resume has changed. This is all my docs. So the docs you collect that you're going to be submitting for scholarships, you want to keep those organized. So you have your medical, your certificates, your written exams. And then anytime I use those for a scholarship, I plop it into the scholarships folder. That way I can look back. Like I said, if I'm reapplying to scholarships, I can look back and see what I'd submitted in years prior. The letters of recommendation that I've received over the years and asked for and received, and then the transcripts I've collected. So those are my documents. I'm going to show you in 2023. The first Wings scholarship is a 99 scholarship that's open to private pilots. And it is awesome, and it's due. Oh shoot! When is it due? In October, on October 1st. So that one's coming up if you're a private pilot or student pilot rather, and you're trying to complete your private pilot license. That's a great one to apply to. And it's just like the one, it's very similar to the one that Teresa just reviewed in the way that it is a 9-page scholarship application. And I split the pages here, which I'm going to teach you how to do very shortly here. And then the presentation will be finished. But you remember how there's the first page of the scholarship, and then here's the personal information I had to fill out. See how I typed it? I typed it because it just looks better. You can use PDF fillers on your computer. And then the third page is the essay page. I didn't put my essay on this page. That would, in my opinion, look very sloppy. I don't know how to fit it in there. It's just really awkward. It's like this little box. So I had to split the application into 9 pages so I could feather and weave my own documents in, like behind each page. And I'll show you the finished product is a 24-page document. And you can see that behind this essay page, I popped in my essay and I put my name at the top. And then the next one is documentation. And instead of trying to put my logbook and my knowledge test, all this stuff in this tiny little box here, I put my logbook there, and you can see it's just like Teresa said. It looks kind of funky because it's oriented, but you have to put it that way so they don't have to tilt their heads. So you have your logbook there, and then your knowledge test, and then this is a good example of what your document page could look like. I've got my license, my pilot license, and my medical all neatly organized on one page. So that's all I'll show you about that large 24-page document, and I will demonstrate for you how to split and merge back together in just a second here. Let me see, go back to my PowerPoint. Oh, I wanted to show you one more example because it's maybe even a better one because it's just simpler. So 2025, the one I just won, which was really exciting because I passed my instrument check ride in July, and when I got home from passing the check ride, there was a letter in the mail saying I'd won the scholarship. So it was like the best day of my life. I was like, "Ooh." But it was another one of those where you had to like sew it all together because they asked for multiple documents, and they wanted basically their application, which I've totally filled out with handwriting. I highly recommend typing, but you can see here it still looks neat, and I didn't go into the margins. So you have the actual scholarship application. They wanted letters of recommendation, and they wanted an essay, and then my transcripts. So I put it all together in one Oh, where is it? Sorry, guys, that's my essay. In one document. And it's 7 pages. So you can see that I took all the PDFs and I merged them to put the application, and followed by my essay, followed by letters of rec, and then my transcripts at the end. So it's really cool what you can do with PDF mergers and splitters. Teresa had mentioned that there's tools on your computer, which there are. So whether you have a Mac or a PC, they both have tools on them. I'll show you. Oh yeah, the PC has this thing called a PDF merger and splitter by AnywaySoft, and then Apple has a preview built-in tool, and you can find the instructions on Apple support. So you can use those. I use an online tool. There's so many online tools, but if you don't want to use an online tool, these are available. The online tools can cost money or they can be free. I use one that's free. It's called I Love PDF, and I love it. I'm going to take a minute to show you how I use it to convert to a PDF, merge PDFs, and split PDFs to finalize our presentation here. So first of all, if you're going to be merging and splitting PDFs, they all have to be PDFs. So you can't be working with a JPEG or a doc. So I'll show you quickly how to do that. If you look at my docs, I have a JPEG in there. It's my written exam for my private pilot exam. Let me get to the I Love PDF website. This is an example of a website where you have all these different functions. It's really cool. You can pick anyone. There's an app too. I'm just used to the website, but I think the app is really user friendly. There's all these functions. I just saw this today and I thought, oh, that's so cool. You can get someone to sign a PDF on here. See in the bottom left there? So that sometimes is a challenge if you're asking a letter of rec from someone far away and they're not going to be able to mail it in time, or I don't know. So that's a cool feature. But let's learn how to convert a JPEG to a PDF. So in the bottom right there, you see JPEG to PDF. I know I have a JPEG file. It's my written. I took a picture of my written exam after I finished it, right? That's one thing you could do. When you get all these documents when you're flying, you always want to save them. Take pictures of them, scan them, make sure, because you just got the one piece of paper and you need it. So I'm going to select JPEG to PDF. And then I'm going to select the red button here that says Select JPEG Images. It's not in my photo library. It's in my files. So I choose the file. Docs comes up. You can see that's actually the only one highlighted. It's the JPEG. And open. All right. So here we have it. It wants to know if I want it portrait or landscape. I'm just going to keep it in portrait. I don't want a margin, and then I convert it to a PDF, bottom right. Now I can download the PDF, and then you make sure that you save it properly. So I'm going to save it to my files really quick, find my scholarship. There it is. Okay, so I'm going to save it into my docs, and it's not a JPEG, so, oh shoot. Sorry guys, PPL written. Okay, save. So that should be, I'm just going to double check that it's in my files. So there it is, the PPL written. It's the second document in from the top left. So now that I have it in PDF format, I can merge it with another PDF. I'm going to teach you how to do that. So let's say the application wants you to submit one single PDF, but you have two PDFs. You have the PDF of your written test and you have your essay, and they want both of those documents. Okay, I'm going to merge. Let's go back to I Love PDF. You can get back by pressing the top left I Love PDF. Let's merge it. So you can see the top two functions are merge and split. You can also compress. Do you see that is available for you? Because Teresa said if you're going to apply to some of these scholarships, they want you to compress them down to a smaller file size to be able to email them. Let's merge. I'm going to select my PDFs. There's my PPL written. And then let's just say I want to put in this essay. And I'm going to open those. Uh-oh. What just happened? Okay, let's merge PDFs, select PDF files. Okay, I will just keep it simple and just select these top two up here, or these ones. So I'm going to do an essay and a letter of recommendation. Erin, it's your letter of recommendation. That's the benefit also of getting involved with your communities, your aviation communities, is you meet all these amazing mentors. I've mentioned that. So now you have your 2 documents. You're going to merge them, and then you're going to download the merged PDF. And there you have a 2-page document, 1 of 2 at the top. It's my essay and it's my letter of rec. And then you can save that as a new document. So save. Just going to save it as a merged in my scholarships docs. And then I'm going to show you how to split it. Okay. So now we have, where is it? Top right, second in, you see our merged document. That's 2 pages now. That's what you could submit to your, it's a one single PDF now. Okay, the last thing I'm going to show you is how to split. All right. So you go to split. Split is a little bit different. So I'm just going to show you. It just has this funky thing that it does where it creates a zip file. So I'm going to show you the one I want to split. Okay, I selected that. I've got 2 pages here that I want to split. I want to create 2 separate documents. I just keep it on that top range. You can experiment with what some of this stuff is. I always pick fixed range because that's how I've received the outcome I want, which is 2 pages. This PDF will be split into files of 1 page. 2 PDFs will be created. That's what I want. So I split it, and then I download the split file. And then you might have a computer, you might have an iPad like I do, so there might be a slightly different process. But in this case, I have to go up to downloads, and I have to open this split file. Okay. It's this, it went into my downloads, and you can see it that we're going to just poke around here and hopefully we find it. I think it's one of these I love PDF splits. I should have cleaned this up before this. Okay, it's not that one. It says, okay, guys. It's going to give you a zip file that you then need to open, and it should produce the 2. Oh goodness, this is a mess. I need to clean this up, obviously. And that is another thing you need to do. This is a really great example of why it's so important to keep your files organized, because I need to go in there and clean up all my downloads so that it's not so hard and confusing to find your split files later. Because when you split, it does this funky thing where it turns it into a zip file, and then all you have to do is click the zip file, and it will literally produce 2 little folders for you. And the 2 pages will be in each folder. So it actually is really simple. I just can't illustrate it for you right now without taking a bunch of your time. But it would be better if none of this was here in my download file, and then I would just easily see the 2 folders that appear for you. So that's how you convert, so you can have everything in PDF, split, and then you want to feather all your documents in and merge it all together into this one beautiful 25-page application. And that's how you successfully apply. Real quick to tie up the presentation, how do you find scholarships? Because we haven't touched on this yet, because I am constantly looking for new scholarships. You search for all your international and national aviation groups. So Women in Aviation, that's WAI. It's Women in Aviation International. That's why it's spelled like that, WAI. Women in Aviation International, the 99s. Iowa, which is International Aerospace Women's Association, AOPA. Anyone know what that stands for? Aircraft Owners Pilots Association. EAA, which is Experience Association. There's OBAP, which is Organization of Black Aerospace Professionals. There's NGPA, which is LGBTQ+. And then there's PAPA, which is Professional Asian Pilots Association. And I'm sure there are so many more that I haven't mentioned here. So you just want to get out there. They're going to have really big annual scholarship packets, most of these big organizations. So you find out when they're due, if it's a good fit for you, and you can apply. You almost always have to be a member. You can join your local aviation clubs. like Washington Pilots Association is awesome. They give out scholarships for your written exams, so you can get your written covered. SIWA is giving scholarships here and there, depending on if they have the budget for it. That's the Camas-Washougal Aviation Association, which is like a tiny little flying club in Camas. So that just gives you an idea of find the flying clubs in your area. Go to the airports, talk to the people. Or do they have a budget to help people with scholarships? And usually they have the heart for it. It's just whether or not they have the money, right? Search your aviation Facebook groups. So, which is Female Aviators Stick Together. I think you have to be a private pilot to join them. And they have always like scholarships posted on their Facebook page. Student Pilot Community is a great one. Then there's the FAT P&W, which is all the Northwest. Does anyone have any other ideas for Facebook groups? Yes. Ladies in Flight Training, Lift. Okay. Anyone else? Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, someone in the audience is sharing that she and her father started a scholarship foundation called Thomas R. Hatch Flying Foundation, and she's going to tell us more about it after, and maybe the people who are watching on the video, they could look that up online, or they have a website. Instagram is TRH Flying Foundation. And she's has a very sweet, kind face, and she wants to tell all of you how you can make your dreams come true with their scholarship foundation. So there's that out there. If you have a special interest, like maybe it's Antarctica, or maybe it's fire and rescue, or it's helicopters, or it's air traffic control, there are scholarships out there. There's money out there for your specialty. And also, I've Googled aviation scholarships. Probably everyone here has, or if you haven't, you should try it. It's kind of overwhelming. There's a lot you have to muddle through. Most of it, I'd say, is college oriented. So if you plan on like making your aviation goals come true while you're going to college, you can find a lot of good stuff out there. But sometimes it's kind of just hard to find the gem in all of that might perfectly fit you, but you can sometimes. Any other ideas? Yes. Northwest Antique Airplane Club. They have a tailwheel and a primary flight training scholarship. Okay, I'm repeating for those on the video. Anyone else? Teresa. Yes. If you want to build time, you're in between ratings, or you're looking for something specialty, there's sometimes there's a lot of great little scholarships that will cover a specific training, like upset recovery, which there's a couple great programs in the Northwest, or a tailwheel endorsement. And those are maybe just a quick like week or two of training, and the scholarship would cover the cost of all of it. So that's a really fun way to make yourself also more diverse and build your resume and all your experience as a pilot. I think unless anyone else has other ideas to share, my main point is there's a lot of money out there. There is. You just have to find it and get it. And you have to believe in yourself continuously, which is one of our biggest, hardest tasks, and just stay positive. You're going to get rejection emails. I received, many of them over the 2.5 years I've been applying to scholarships, but don't sweat it. Just apply again. They want to see your name come up again. They want to see that you've progressed in the last year. They want to see that your story has shifted. And it's exciting to be able to share that with them. So stay organized. Apply again to the same scholarships, find new ones, and may the odds be ever in your favor. Good luck, everyone. We're rooting for you. We are. And Thank you for coming. It's awesome that you're all here. And thanks for watching, those of you online. And this does tie up the presentation portion. I think Noelle is going to talk to you now about what's next.
Well, first, actually, Grace needs to announce something about a little bit of a parking issue.
I just want to let you guys, I know some of you parked over in the grass area. When you pull out, just gently go up against the gate and it'll automatically open. For those who parked in the aero maintenance parking area behind the gate, what you're going to do is you're just going to exit the building. You'll
Gina, Teresa, Meredith. 4 of you ready?
We jump right into Q&A?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
If you need a break, if you have to go to the bathroom or whatever, feel free. Don't feel weird about getting up. There's still lots of snacks. I'll let you guys know. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to stand back
We're
down.
all here. We're all here as experts, either expert applicants or expert essay committee people. We're all going to introduce ourselves. So Teresa. You know me. I'm an expert applicant. Erin.
And I'm Meredith. I'm a first officer for Alaska. I'm also scholarship chair for the 99s, our local chapter. And I also review essays for PAPA, which is Professional Asian Pilots Association. And I'm also a winner of the Amelia Earhart Scholarship. Yes.
So we're here to answer questions. We're here to answer questions, and we're going to pass the mic. If you have a question for a specific person, that's fine. If you have a specific or a question for all of us, generally, that's fine too. Whenever you do ask a question, we're going to repeat it over the mic, just for the people watching online. Who wants to answer? Or repeat the question.
So the question is for people who are just beginning in aviation as student pilots, how to become more involved in the organizations, or kind of how to start that process? Right. Great. So the first thing is to go to one of their local meetings, introduce yourself as a new pilot or budding student pilot, and just ask, hey, be honest to say, I'm looking for scholarships. I know volunteering is a big part of that. Can you give me any advice on where I could volunteer in this organization or in other organizations? And one thing I want to say specifically about somebody at that level, when you do go to do your essay for your scholarships, put in volunteering outside of aviation, like Erin mentioned in the resumes, because if that's what you have, that's great. People who volunteer, have a history of volunteering, tend to continue to volunteer. So go ahead and put non-aviation stuff in your resume or in your essay for a scholarship. But as to finding opportunities in the 99s, there's, like I said, simply things from being a webmaster to being the one who organizes our monthly luncheons, somebody who's responsible for some of the equipment that we use at booths. There's all kinds of ways to volunteer with varying amounts of time and or knowledge and skills. So just start asking, just put it out, go to a meeting, get your smile on and introduce yourself and just ask, and they'll give you all kinds of opportunities to volunteer.
As a Women in Aviation chapter representative, I'm the treasurer for our local chapter. Excuse me. We have a Girls in Aviation Day coming up in September on the 27th, and that's a great way to kind of get your foot in the door. And you don't have to be a licensed pilot to be a member of the Women in Aviation. Some organizations require you to be a licensed pilot, so you can't be a member when you're a student pilot. And just like in life, you just got to keep showing up. And every organization has its own personality. And so if you don't feel like you kind of mesh with one group, just keep trying because you'll find the group that you mesh with.
Yeah. Anything to add?
I mean, other than those two, just get, I mean, there's so many opportunities, and get involved in socials is one of them. Showing up to the lunches, even if you just pick something that you enjoy, and if you have a specific skill set, of course, offer those. But if you just want to volunteer, on applications and stuff, they just want to see things. That you show up and that you pick something you enjoy, you pick something to volunteer with, versus someone who just says, "Oh, I'm going to volunteer," or be there and not do anything. That you add to the chapter also is a good volunteering opportunity, right? We're all nonprofit organizations. Yeah.
The other thing that I think is a great idea is you can also kind of customize your volunteering to what you need and what stage you're at in your training. So if you're working on your private pilot and you're working on your written exam, create a study group. Invite people, say, hey, I'm going to meet Tuesday night, at the coffee shop, and we're all going to study for this. So it not only gives you the volunteering experience or that you're drawing people in, but it's progressing your own personal goal too as well. So that's a super easy way to put in volunteering experience.
My friend used that same she did that, and the volunteer experience she put is that she was helping the socials for an organization, and that she had organized a regular study group, and they awarded her the scholarships. And usually they're really looking at volunteer experience. So yeah, that's a great suggestion.
Along those lines, those activities are also going to help you. This is a fairly small industry, and it's ironically small. You don't think that you run across friends and people all over the country and all over the world, and it's quite a small world. So the more relationships you build, the more people you get to know, the more networking you do. It's going to help you not only for the resume building, your essay applications, but for your career, however you choose to go in it all the way through. So those are all skill sets that will be valuable going forward. Any other questions? Okay.
Wait, can we pause for a second? Vanessa, we need you up here. You're a scholarship expert. I just looked out in the crowd and I go, Vanessa.
There's room for you.
Okay, Vanessa's going to introduce herself. She came here to volunteer her time and be here with you and share her knowledge and her experience as well. So I'm gonna let her share for a second.
I'm Vanessa Jump Nelson, and I'm the president of the Northwest Antique Airplane Club, which we've revitalized recently. And last year we awarded a $3,000 primary flight training scholarship. This year we awarded a $5,000 primary flight training scholarship. Both of those went to women, I might add. And we added a $3,000 tailwheel scholarship this year. And I won the very first Northwest section scholarship, and I used it for ski plane training in Alaska. I also got a glider scholarship. The Women Soaring Pilots Association, they have a glider add-on and several other scholarships that you can get through them. I'm trying to remember if there were other things. In my other life, I also have been very involved in scholarships as a scholarship judge and applicant and recipient. So, yeah. Sure, thanks. You have questions?
Yeah, first question. What about, I think this one came in during the resume part. What about older adult PPL who is older adult PPL who doesn't have recent work experience, but haven't been on like a kid's run an aviation scholarships require that too, even for working towards BPL, but not everyone's that age.
So the question seems to be geared towards someone who maybe has a private pilot's license from years prior, took time off to raise a family, and they're trying to get back into the industry and get scholarships based on just with a large gap. Is that correct? Yeah.
There are scholarships specifically for those people. I can't remember where I saw it, but specifically for more mature women who have taken gaps. I wish I could remember where I saw that. You need to be aware and be proud of all the skills it takes to do what you did, to raise a family, to organize a family, to how detail oriented you need to be to make that family unit work. And so don't think that you don't have the skills that are parallel to being a pilot. I'm sure you volunteered at school, with your kids or some other activities. So put that stuff in, and as eventually, as your resume or your experience lives, then they'll become more aviation related. But put in your volunteer experience and use the skills that you used every day during your aviation gap time to fill up those spaces.
Also, I just wanted to add that, as Erin pointed out, if you have a gap in your resume, if you put that was for raising your children, I'm sure that would be certainly something worthy to put on that application. Is it, there's a Bless Your Heart scholarship and some other niche scholarships from different chapters. That's probably not the one we're thinking of, but yeah.
And it's not unusual to take gap time. If you're in the professional side of things, it's harder to take gap years. But I have a friend that I think most of us know who raised a family for 20 years and then got back into the industry with her tail wheel, bought her own 170, and now she's an investigator for the NTSB. So there's a lot of different ways to be involved in this industry. I was a single mom raising my son while working, but there's other ways to make it happen. So having a gap for staying at home with your kids is not an insurmountable obstacle. It just may redefine or alter your course and create a different destination for you.
Should we alternate the crowd to the online to the crowd? We'll alternate between a question from online and a question from out here. Okay, Maru.
I have a question about letter of recommendation. It's kind of specific. What's the title should be, and you mentioned that it needs to be handwritten, signed. What about the date? Does the date need to be handwritten with it, or where does the date need to be? Can you tell us a little bit about specifics where these things need to be?
Gotcha. So the question is about some of the more specific elements of a letter of recommendation. So it should be designed like a business letter. So traditionally, that would be the date at the top, salutation to a specific group or entity, body of the letter, and then signature and title at the bottom. So in that, the signature, it doesn't necessarily have to be handwritten. It can be an electric signature. It just can't be their name typed in, kind of thing. And and then like I said, the date at the top within a month of the due date of the scholarship.
Thank you.
Okay.
And online.
Next online one. If I don't have the hours or something else, would it hurt to still apply? My chances if I apply again next year if I get the hours.
Okay. Say that one more time just because the noise from the plane outside.
What I think is being asked here is, if you don't have the hours or something else required now, would it hurt to still apply, like hurting your chances if you apply again next year if you still get the hours? Something to do with having your name pop up multiple times in application?
Okay, so the question is, let's say you don't meet one of the requirements for the scholarship that you're applying for, like the number of hours required. Do you apply anyways, or would that hurt your chances next year when they see your name come up and they thought that maybe your application was, how would I word this? I'm not the best person to answer this. I'm just trying to rephrase the question. I think. I know how we felt about it. Here. Go ahead. Okay.
Well, for us, when we were just revitalizing, we felt if someone contacted us directly and asked, hey, I don't have that particular requirement, what are my chances? And we just honestly told them, well, it's your time if you would like to submit, and if we don't have enough people that meet that requirement, then it might go to you. In other cases where scholarships there are plentiful applicants, you might find you're either going to waste the judge's time and make them annoyed, or it's wasting your time because you know there's so much competition. So I think it's an individual thing, and I would say we're all real people that are running the scholarship programs, and to call and ask or contact via email or something and find out, just what are the chances and how do we feel, because each group does have its own personality.
On the airline side, if you're looking to get hired by a particular airline, there used to be a time back 20 years ago when we had paper applications that they actually recommended that you continually apply, because it ultimately put their applications into a folder, a literal folder. And the thicker the folder you had with that airline, it demonstrated your desire to work for that particular airline. Now in the digital world, I'm going to ask Meredith, she's more recent through this process. Is that still the case, or have they changed their philosophy on that?
With airlines and with PAPA, if you do not meet the minimum requirements, you will not be viewed. So it does differ per application, but if they say 50 hours, you need 50 hours. At 49, they won't look at your application, right? So some of them you can update them, say, hey, I applied at 49, and send them a follow-up email, depending on how many people are applying. But at least with Alaska, if we didn't have that number, we were not looked at until we hit that number.
So that demonstrates that it varies by organization, but also varies over time and how they do accept the application. So you always have to stay up to date and current as to what's going on.
Do you have anything to add?
No, I just say it depends on how popular the scholarship is. If there's a lot of people applying, if you don't meet the basic general requirements, your application's going to not be viewed. However, if you find a smaller scholarship where they don't get very many applicants, or maybe they only get one, if it's yours, you could get lucky. So I would say, yeah, maybe just assess the scholarships. Don't be disappointed if they don't accept your scholarship, but you could get lucky and find one.
And I think the heart behind the question was, will it reflect badly on you next year? Will they then feel as if you're not worthy of the scholarship because you applied without the qualifications the year prior? So does anyone have a response to that?
Well, from our perspective, we would be excited to see that name pop up again with more determination. So the previous year when we did our scholarship program, we had made it open for the whole United States, and we received 100 applicants, even though on FAT PNW somebody said your restrictions are that it's too tight, you're not going to get anybody because of our requirements. We had 100. Then we narrowed it down to just Oregon and Washington, and this year we had 3 applicants for the primary flight training scholarship and 2 for the tailwheel scholarship. So you don't know. You really don't know what. Amelia Earhart, obviously. You got, how many do you get?
On a total Amelia Earhart scholarships, I don't know. That make it to final judging, 100.
How many initially?
Someone
is tasked with reading.
Yeah, I have no idea. I know the Southwest section gets like 50 or so, and they can probably submit 20, maybe. Yeah, a lot.
And then the airlines, what do they say?
Thousands upon thousands upon thousands. So, and they're all digital now. And I went through it during the old paper time, so that tells you how old I am. So Meredith went through and it's been more electronic and digital through a whole different application system. And so that's why the recommendation that they had when I was going through to keep applying to have a bigger folder with the company to show your dedication to that specific airline over another one doesn't apply anymore. That's why I was deferring to Meredith on that information. So any other questions in the room? How about online?
There is one more. Erin mentioned a few documents/resume examples that she had provided. Would it be possible to have those emails?
The links on the end of the PowerPoint go directly to those templates at the various sites. So Kit Darby's link and the Spitfire Elite link go directly to their resume templates. So hopefully they can at least see the address on the online PowerPoint.
So they are, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure that she accepts visits her online.
Okay.
And then that same person also said, there's also a really wonderful scholarship guide through Careers
So apparently someone online said there's a careers in aviation source that has a great scholarship guide to resource for those of you looking for more scholarships. So careers in aviation. And the Women in Aviation scholarships window that comes out, how many thousands, hundreds of scholarships do they give out during that?
The scholarship packet. Oh, thank you. Correct me if I'm wrong. Actually, I know, is Grace still here? Did she pop out somewhere? Oh, okay. She was just looking at their packet. I think they've got over 100 scholarships available. You can only pick 3, and then you write 1 essay and you fill out 1 application, and you get to apply to 3 of them, which is great.
And those scholarships vary. They're for pilot, non-pilot, maintenance, all different types of scholarships available, not just flying scholarships.
Since you mentioned maintenance, do we have anybody in here that's looking to go into that part of the aviation field? No? Okay. Well, if you know anybody, the Association for Women in Aviation Maintenance is very strong, and they do offer multiple scholarships. I don't know. Probably Whirly Girls. They're the Helicopter Pilot Association. We had a question? For scholarships, I think you're talking about if you have work experience as a mechanic. I would check with them. So AWAM has a website, AWAM, and they list multiple scholarships.
Any other questions online, Noelle? All right, what's next?
Does anyone else have any burning thoughts, questions, ideas that you want to share before we close the night? We're really happy that you're all here. Yeah, and thanks to everyone who showed up online. And I hope you got what you came for tonight. And we're here around. If you just felt nervous to ask a question in front of people, you can come up to us individually too. Although at this time we are, did you need some? Yes, at this time we are going to break off. Basically, the presentation is over, the Q&A is over, so you're all welcome to take snacks and go home. We are really happy you came. We're going to do it again next year. Yeah, I think we're going to do it again next year. If you know anyone else who's interested and wants to come, we try to do it in August because that's sort of scholarship season. We've got the Women in Aviation packet coming in October, and then also First Wings, and then also the Amelia Earhart due January 1st. So this year we tried something new. We offered that you could bring an essay, or rather send the essay ahead, or bring one if time permitting, and we would do one-on-one essay content review with you. We think we might continue that again next year if you want to keep that in mind for next year. For those of you that brought an essay this year, stick around. I think it's Addison, Maru, and Stacy. Did Stacy come? Oh no. Okay, so maybe you're just 2. All right. Thanks for coming. You're all free to go or mingle or ask us questions individually.